Happy Wednesday. This is another episode of Mapping It Out Wednesdays. And as usual, we have Akila Davis with us. And I'm so excited about our topic today. And I have a question to start us off. Akila, first, how are you?
I am great, thank you. And yourself, Marie?
I am good. I am still alive on this lovely Wednesday.
I hope so.
I am not a recording or a ghost. Although I might feel like one. All right. So, in all seriousness, let's talk about motivation and let's talk about the symbiotic relationship between motivation and organizations. What does that statement actually mean?
Okay, I have come up with a concept that people and organizations form an economic symbiosis. Organizations can't make money without people, and people can't make money to live without organization. So there's that symbiotic relationship. And in part of what the work I do with engagement, a big part of it is helping people realize that for an organization to grow, it has to nurture its people. And when it does that, it creates more engagement. And when it creates more engagement, the people are more creative, they're more productive, and they produce more for the organization. And that's exactly what I mean. And motivation plays a big part in that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Did you by any chance have the chart?
I do not, but I can pull the chart up. This is how you know it's live, people. And while I do that, let me ask a little bit around, because I think some people are thinking about this, which is there are organizations that do make money, but they don't actually treat their employees well or are concerned about their motivation. So can you reconcile that for us? Because theoretically, we know that the more engaged people are, the more motivated people are, the more productive they are. But can you explain that sort of, cognitive dissonance when it comes to
Yes.
companies that make profit?
When we're looking, we look at profit first companies and people first companies. And if you were to compare them, apples to apples, the people first companies would be making more profits because when they're engaged, they're not just more productive, they also save money with the bottom line. They produce better products, all of that sort of stuff. Now, you have companies that are profit first, and they think it is really great that they can get people to work for them at lower costs. They overwork them, they burn out, no biggie. They have a much higher turnover rate.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't realize is by doing that, they are leaving money on the table because turnover costs them, the lack of engagement costs them, the lack of people not caring about their products. It impacts customer service. It impacts the product itself. So yes, they're making money, but are they making as much as they could? And the answer to that, based on the research, I would say is no. But they're very short-sighted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for answering that question, because I think that's something that's quite prevalent in people's minds, is this notion that, when we say that engagement is important and people need to come first, the first pushback I know I always get when I talk to corporate executives is that they will immediately throw out, Twitter, or now I guess we call it X, or Tesla as an example of a company that is very much profit first and really does not care about its people.
No, it does not.
So, and I will put the disclaimer in my opinion, so that way
Well,
in a litigious society, so I have to be careful.
that is so true. I totally agree with you. Yes. And in my opinion, and based on the things I have read, I would
Mhm.
agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I found your PowerPoint, so let me go ahead and share, and then you can guide me to where you would like us to go. So
Okay.
give us a moment with technology. It's not always
Down.
cut on how a share happens. Let me just make sure I go to slideshow.
I can
you
see
tell
it
me?
perfectly.
Okay, so where would you like me to go?
Please go down to the next one. These are things I would love for us to talk about over coming time.
Okay.
And we'll stay with this.
Okay,
This
let
is,
me make it a bigger
yes, please.
slide so everyone can see it clearly. Okay, there you go. All right, there you go. So
Yes. And this one, it says motivational impact in organizations, but it also shows the organizational impact on motivation. So it's showing that symbiotic relationship.
absolutely.
So let's start with the 3 Ps of an organization.
So that
What
would
an
be
organization needs in order to reach their goals, which is profitability as much as they can, they need to have performance. If there is no performance, or high performance will lead to higher productivity, and higher productivity leads to higher profits. And if the company has higher profits and it's doing well, it feeds back towards its people in a people first company. Okay.
Mhm.
And if that company, especially if it knows how to utilize motivation in order to speak to its people, to treat them, to give them what they need to feel highly motivated and loyal to the company and to be more impactful, here's what happens. When you meet your people's motivation, it increases their energy. It also increases their enthusiasm for the company. And enthusiasm usually leads to curiosity and wanting to make a difference and wanting to be a part of the company, not just an employee of the company. They're proud to say, I'm an employee of this company. Okay. And that leads to more engagement. And as you can see, engagement leads into the productivity area. Or sorry, it leads to performance, which leads to productivity and then profits.
So it's that symbiotic relationship that you were talking about.
Exactly. And this cycle works both ways. If somebody is not motivated, then it decreases their energy, decreases their enthusiasm, and it decreases their engagement. And of course, that leads to lower performance, lower productivity, lower profits. If the company is not doing anything, and we can use lots of companies as this, is they make a huge profit. You have the CEO making 100 times what someone on the floor is making. They're not putting back some of those profits into the people and saying, we value you. We understand the work you're doing, and you are an important part of this company. And by not doing that, it demotivates people. And what happens when people get demotivated? Well, one, when they get demotivated, as we say, they become disengaged. Sometimes it's mildly disengaged. And last week, we talked about, or in the previous session, we talked about the levels of engagement. So if somebody is at the optimum level, they're going to be producing at up to 120% of what the company is paying them. If they are in the boost zone, they'll be producing at 100%. If they're in the risk zone, they are producing at 80% on average. And in the action zone, it's 60%. And that is also backed by Gallup studies, which have shown that for every $10,000 you pay in salary, if somebody is disengaged at the lowest level, which would be the action zone, they're costing you 34, they're only producing at 6,400, I believe, or
Of that 10,000.
6,600
Yeah.
per
Mhm.
10,000 of salary. The
Mhm.
company is losing 3,400 is basically
Mhm.
what it is.
Yeah.
So these are not just numbers we pull out of the hat. There have been a lot of research done on this. And one of the things is engagement. Companies are spending over $2 billion a year now in engagement. But the low-hanging fruit is gone. The things that, were very simple is talk to people nicely, treat them nicely, give them some more flexibility in their workplace. Now we're at a place where you need to know your employees better in
Mhm.
order to continue the cycle of high performance, high productivity, high profits. And I'll give you one example. There is this raging debate, as you know, about work from home or come back to the office, return to the office.
Yeah.
Well, there are people who will do better working from home. They will be more highly productive. And there will be people who will be more productive in an office environment.
Yes.
But organizations don't know that they can learn this about their employees just by doing a motivational map. Because if somebody has a high friend, they need that interaction, they need relationships. When they're at home, that is something that's really important to them. It's part of their top 3 motivations, and they're not getting it. So they tend to be more
Disengaged.
disengaged,
Yeah.
more demotivated,
Mhm.
because they can't feel that connection.
Yeah.
And that is extremely important to them.
As you said that, it reminds me of a client, a recent client, where um, a place where a lot of organizations fail to recognize that they are demotivating their employees is really around policies and procedures that they have that are not equitable. And
Yes.
so in this example, what I'll say to you is that they still have work from home policy, but they do have a population of employees that cannot work from home because
Mhm.
they're client facing. And
Yes.
so what happens is that if, for example, let's just say you have a sick child, if you are not client facing, so you're more in the operations side of the house, let's accounting, HR, those type of ops, you can stay home with your sick child and still work.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the employees that are not able to do that because they're client facing, they're penalized in the sense of if I've been working for the organization for example, 90 days, and I don't get sick leave or PTO until I fulfill my 90 days, but I have a sick child and I have to stay home, I'm docked pay versus the employee at their 90 days that they could work from home, they'll work from home. And so what's interesting is that it's a very simple and easy way to adjust this. It's a simple policy fix that
Mhm.
people don't think about. And so with the client that I'm referring to, we had an extensive conversation about how can we make the policy equitable for people who cannot work from home, but still need to be able to have that time off, and they need to feel like they're seen by the organization because they'll get demotivated if they see the inequities. And
Okay.
so it was a rich conversation and a simple solution. What they ended up doing is that they kept their PTO policy, but they changed their sick time policy to accommodate having it before the 90 days.
And you are right. Companies don't think about this. I've
Mhm.
had a situation last week where a gentleman that I'm working with, he's been working with this company for over 20 years.
Mm.
And he has been an exceptional employee, always there when they need him and all of that. They had someone leave recently, and there's a bit of a shortage. There's him and one other person who can do this particular job in this particular place. And they're basically open 7 days a week.
Mm.
He has no children. He's not married. And he was told that he was going to be working Saturdays and Sundays because his coworker needed to spend time with his children. And my client he was ready to quit.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about it, and now he is having a conversation with his employer, because just because he doesn't have children doesn't mean that it is something he can do. He had a serious problem a couple of years ago. He needs to take care of his health. He doesn't go to restaurants anymore because what he does on the weekends is cook his meals.
Mm-hmm.
And more than that, he is working with someone like myself, and I'm only available on the weekends to help him. And he considers what we're doing is more important than anything else, so that he does not want to work on the weekends.
More than that, I will say is that shame on this organization to make the assumption that because someone has children, they have a life, and someone who doesn't have children doesn't have a life.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that a person who doesn't have children also still has responsibilities for. And shame on us for not recognizing that the lack of children doesn't mean there's a lack of responsibility or accountability to others in our lives, or even to ourselves.
Yes.
You know, we preach this idea of work-life balance, which I don't believe in. I believe in work-life harmony. I don't believe in balance.
I totally agree.
Yeah, but we preach this and we don't then actually execute on this within organizations in a way that's holistic. And again, both examples are examples of equity within an organization. That when people feel like you don't see them and you're not treating them fairly or equally to their counterparts,
Mm-hmm.
that can be a demotivator. It can really just dampen their enthusiasm for coming into work every day. And again, as you said, because there's a symbiotic relationship between the humans in the workplace and the organization, which is also a living organism, that can erode very easily.
Very easily. Yes. So, and sometimes, and I'll give you another example. When I had my office and I had 12 people working for me, we were doing this. The energy, if somebody had a sick child, there was no question. Work from home, the rest of us will take care of what needs to be done here.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't, for things you can't do from home.
Mm-hmm.
And they were an amazing group. Like I said, what we turned into being is a partnership. And it was one of those things where, they gave to the company and the company gave back to them. And it was a really good relationship. And in the 15 years I owned that company, I had one person leave.
Mm.
One person. And that's because he needed to look after his kids because his wife was taking a very high paying position, a leadership position. And it was their values that their kids always had a parent at home. Mm-hmm. And I am so proud of doing that. And that is one of the reasons I have this unshakable belief that this is not impossible. This is not a pipe dream because I've experienced it in my own life.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something that you said that struck me, which was that the employee gives to the organization and the organization gives to the employee. And
Mhm.
I think that's the piece that's really missing with a lot of organizations is that recognition that it is not a one-way street, that we're not just taking from the people within the organization, that we have to give back to them. And giving back doesn't mean monetarily. Of
No.
course, you're paying someone's salary, but that is not the definition of giving back to them. You know, we work to support our lifestyles, our families, our purpose, our goals, you know, going back to the 9 motivators. We really do work for those reasons, and we have to feed those. And organizations, if they want to be successful, I think what you're saying here is they have to recognize that they have to feed those motivators. Is that correct?
I am saying that. And there's another part to it. Like I said, as you said, it is a two-way street.
Mhm.
Employees have to realize that they need to give, that it's not this person is employing them. They only do what they have to do, even though the company is being good to them. It's not, I'll take as much as I can and give as little as I can.
Right.
It is a two-way street. And if there's an imbalance, somebody suffers. It's either the employee or the organization.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about balance, we're not talking about work-life balance here. We're talking about my responsibilities to the company and the company's responsibilities to me. There have to be give and take where we both feel that it's equitable.
Yeah, I love that you made that point that this is the correct usage of balance.
Yeah.
That is the correct uses of balance. So that being said, Akila, what are some basic things that you would recommend to, let's first start with employees.
Mhm.
If they really want to have these conversations with their employers, what are some basic things that you would recommend for them to do?
Well, it probably wouldn't surprise you that what I say is know yourself. If you don't know what you want, you can't talk to somebody about what you want and need. And if you don't know what you want and need, how can they accommodate you?
Yeah.
Right? Um, it's like me saying to you, we're going out to dinner tonight, and you said to me, Akila, what do you want? I'm easy. I'll do anything you want. Where would you like to go? And you make a suggestion.
Let's have Chinese.
That would have been great, but I had Chinese for lunch. What else would you like?
Okay, how about Italian?
I'm allergic to tomatoes.
Oh,
But you see,
yeah,
you're trying to please me,
right.
but I don't even know what I want. So how
Yeah.
can we come to that? And it would get very frustrating for you after a while.
Yes, I personally have had this experience where I've thrown out a lot of suggestions to someone about where to go to eat, and they reject every
Every one
suggestion.
of them.
And I can say from personal experience, it is beyond frustrating that it might involve the sense of wanting to strangle them.
But if you had said, I don't have any idea where I want to go, but I am allergic to tomatoes.
Right,
I had Chinese today.
right.
So do you have
That would
any?
be helpful. Yeah, it's a
Exactly.
beginning step. So
So
really what you're saying is that first step for employees is know what you want and understand yourself. Have some self-awareness. What's the second piece of advice? Let's do three. What's the second piece of advice you would give?
the second piece of advice is how do you feel? And we've talked about trust before. Is
Mhm.
this somebody you feel like you can trust,
Mhm.
your boss? Because if there isn't a level of trust, you will not be able to be honest. And when without that, there is no relationship, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love this particular piece of advice because a lot of times we do tell people, understand yourself, ask for what you want, but we don't give them the advice of recognize who's on the other side of the table. Is
Hmm.
this someone that is reasonable? Is this someone that you feel like you can trust and you can say your truth to without repercussions?
Yeah.
Especially in this day and age where we do live in a world where it's very heightened, people's sense of feeling like there might be repercussions for even some of the basic things. So that's a great piece of advice, is also recognize who's sitting across from you and do you trust them?
Yep.
What's the last piece of advice you would give to someone in this
The
situation?
last one is very important. Don't go in with preconceived notions. You
Mm,
could say to them, here's what I'm thinking about. I thought that maybe I can discuss it with you and we can see what's possible. So you're opening up the door to co-create something that would suit both of you rather than going, here's what I want.
yeah, that's
Know what
beautiful.
flexibility is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I would say that's even beautiful in terms of discussing your performance as well.
Yes, yes.
Side note, this is really good advice for performance conversations as well. So we talked about the employee. So now
Yes.
let's talk about the employer. What's the
Okay.
advice you would give the employer for this conversation?
I would give the employer the advice that, first of all, the best thing you can do is do a motivational map survey. As one of my clients said, and I've got this on tape, I just haven't done anything with it. He said, he said, if you do a map, if you do a motivational map survey, you actually know where you are for the first time. And this is somebody who they do a lot of different surveys. They've always have.
Mhm.
And for the first time, he felt like, okay, I know what my employees want now. I understand where they're coming from. And it was also very enlightening to him how they matched with the company's mission,
Mhm.
you know. And the ones who did were the ones who were there much, much longer. Now, he was definitely a people first employer.
Mhm.
Okay. And so he said, I guess some people might not want to do it because they would be afraid of the answer. But if the answer is bad, it still gives them something to work on. Now they can move themselves
Mhm.
out of that pit. And if it's great, it tells you what you're doing right. So you can continue to do it.
Mhm.
So that would be my first piece of advice. Do a motivational map survey because it is different from every other one that you have done.
And I like that that advice goes to the employer because
Yep.
what it also says is that I'm willing to invest in you as my employee to make sure that I understand what motivates you and
Mhm.
how I can encourage that cycle.
Yep.
That I really love that. So what would be the second piece of advice then for an
The
employer?
second thing is on the map survey, take action.
Mm,
What was amazing in this survey is money, pay was the second last important thing to this group. And it was their highest level of dissatisfaction. And he said, okay, he says, I knew it was a problem, but we didn't realize it was this big a problem.
mm, mhm,
2 years later, when we did it, like we do it every year, but it takes
mhm.
time to fix that pay problem.
Right.
2 years later, when we did it, it came up as the third level of satisfaction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was just amazing. And their motivation was higher
Mhm.
simply because they knew that they were listened to. The thing they had the most problem with got fixed. And they were eager to do these surveys because they could see the results.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Akila, this is such profound advice that you are giving. And, those who are listening right now, please take note of this because this second piece of advice is so critical. How many times has an employer done a survey, an engagement survey, or asked you to take an assessment, or asked you for feedback about a project or about work, and then did nothing with that information? That by itself, the act of doing nothing with that information will actually increase the level of decrease, I should say, the level of motivation. It is so demotivating when you know you've given this information to someone and they do nothing with it. So I think that is worth all the marbles, as they say, that piece of advice. Take action.
And yeah, and the other thing about the motivational map survey, that one took that was a big part of it. But there are other little things that you can do where it maybe just a way of speaking differently that you can implement right away that have that quick win. So the thing that took a year and a half was okay because you had done some small things to move them up higher.
Yeah, and I love that, really taking the opportunity to take those quick wins, because that builds momentum, especially like you said, if you have something that's going to take a longer time to execute on, to really be able to take action. So is that one your third one then, is to take those quick wins, or do you have a different third one?
Well, I'll ask you for this. What would you say is the third one? You work with a lot of companies as well. You know what the motivational survey is all about and what it tells you. So what would you give
Well,
us?
so my third one that I would say, in addition to having them do the assessment, taking action and taking those incremental action pieces, those quick wins to build up, is also to have daily conversations if you are in person with your employees. If you have a virtual team, weekly conversations. Don't wait for performance reviews. Don't wait for quarterly conversations. People want to be seen. They want to be heard and understood. And taking those small opportunities on a daily basis to hear them and to see them. That simple act of coming in, what I used to do in the mornings when I worked in a corporate environment, so I'd come into my office in the morning, take off my coat. I live in Chicago, so there's a lot of stuff you have to take off before you can actually go out in the world. And then I wouldn't turn on my computer right away. I would immediately go and greet every person in my department. And I would always ask these three questions. So the first question was, what do you need from me today? The second question was, what will make this a good day for you? Like, if you could accomplish one thing, what would make it a good day for you? And then the last question was always a personal question that I had. So, for example, if someone said to me that their child was on a footy team and they had a game the night before, I would always ask about the score of the game, how did it go, that kind of thing. The reason why is because, as you said, we are humans in these organizations, these living organizations. And the more that we feel like the person that is responsible to support my work sees me and hears me and understands me, the more my engagement goes up, the more motivated I am to do that work. So for me, I would say, make it a point to really reach out. These conversations take just a few moments. And virtually, when I had a virtual team, once a week, I would have that conversation. Actually, that's not true. It was really twice a week, the beginning of the week. And then at the end of the week, I would ask, did you accomplish everything that you hope to accomplish during the week? And did I make sure, always ending the day or the week with, did I give you everything that you requested? Because I'm human, I might forget something. So it's important for me to at least recognize, did I give you everything? And if I didn't, what did I miss? Right? So getting that feedback from them. And I will say to you, on my virtual teams, the people that were on my virtual team, we are still close, even though we no longer work for that organization. And I still connect with them because we built a real connection and a rapport with each other because we showed each other that we cared about each other and we wanted to know what was going on with each other. And so those are relationships that have lasted for, oh my gosh, I'm going to say more than 20 years. I just realized it. Okay, I didn't say that out loud. Let's edit that out. No, I'm teasing.
Well, here's the thing. I agree with everything you said.
Mm.
Absolutely. But I would take it one step higher.
Mm.
If we do the motivational map, the department head should know the motivators of everybody in there.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you speak to them, you want to speak to their motivators. So the searcher in your department, you say, what difference are you excited to make today?
Yeah.
You know, and they'd be happy to tell you. And then you say, is there anything you need from me to help you achieve that? Just like you were saying.
Yeah.
And you go through each one of the motivators because, like I said, the friend would want more of a personal connection. So it's, how are you? How are your family? Because that's something that,
is important to them. Yeah.
Yes, very important to them. And somebody who is a spirit is usually, they don't know how to talk. A high spirit doesn't know how to talk about personal things. Ask them about their work,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you start personalizing it for the expert. You ask them, what they're doing and what awesome thing they're going to be doing, because they are very precise. Achievement is important to them, but not just achievement, doing it right, helping other people, passing it on. So if you know the motivators, you can then go ahead and speak to them personally, which builds even stronger relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that addition. I will say that I wish I had motivational maps when when I had, my own my own unit, because that would have been really, really helpful for me to have been able to speak to their motivators. But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And the other thing is when you understand a company's motivation and you're explaining, like you said, mentioned something about performance reviews. You keep tabs of what you're doing and how your performance impacted the company's profitability and productivity. And that can be two ways. You could have saved them money or you could have increased their income. But whatever it is, they speak to you in your language, you speak to them in their language.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. So with that, I will say we're going to end on that note. We went a little bit over, but it was worth it. It's always worth it. I want to thank Akilah for, again, giving us such beautiful nuggets of wisdom and really explaining how motivation impacts every aspect, honestly, of our lives. And I think we don't recognize that all the time. And again, if you would like to win your own motivational map assessment, as well as a debrief and a coaching session with Akilah, please fill out the Google form that will be in the comment section of this broadcast. And we will announce the winners, which we do online every week for whoever has won. And you can get a motivational map with Akilah. Thank you for this, Akilah. This has been wonderful.
Thank you, Marie. Every conversation I have with you is wonderful. So,
all right. So everyone have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place.